Behind the Shades.
Julie DeLucca-Collins. I am a business and life strategy coach, authority mentor, TEDx speaker. That's my new title. Author and podcaster of the Casa de Confidence podcast. You can find me on all the platforms, social media platforms at Julie DeLucca-Collins. But my website is Go Confidently Services. And that's what I help individuals to create the confidence to live the life they have imagined and to grow in their business or create the type of mindset that allows them to live life to the fullest with the freedom and just everyday excitement that makes you happy to know where you are.
So I guess my first question for you is when you mentioned building confidence, how does that look for each and every person? Because I know maybe for me, it's a little bit different than it will look for you. So how do we build confidence to look like the way that we want it to look that will benefit our life?
One of the biggest misconceptions that we have about confidence is that feeling we get or that we're born with. But I want to question that form of thought. And I want to encourage your listeners to kind of start to notice that there is always going to be areas in our life in which we're not confident. We are humans, and there's so many things that we are beginners, that we're not experienced at doing. And of course, when we're going to try something new, we're going to lack the level of confidence that somebody else that's been at it for a long time may have. So that is the first thing that I want to encourage your listeners, because when we think and compare, like, oh my gosh, look how great that show is, right? And I love what they're doing, and I look at my show and I'm like, oh, I could never do that, right? Then we bring ourselves down. Our brain is programmed to keep us safe. And when things are new, then we immediately are going to start to qualify them. We're immediately going to go into this space where we are thinking, we're not enough. We can never do it, or I will never be that good. So the first thing that we need to do is just kind of bring awareness and know and normalize that it's okay to be a beginner. For instance, when you started riding your bike, did you know how to ride your bike immediately? You probably needed training wheels, right? And you needed to keep trying. And that's the same thing with everything. And the more you try to do the thing that you're not sure about, the more that you're going to start to build your confidence. And that's a little bit of what I help my clients with, is creating the daily action, creating the habits, creating the momentum, or even that first step to start to find the evidence that they can do the things that will help them be more confident.
That bicycle analogy is so spot on. I remember when I was learning to ride a bike, I must have fell off that bike a dozen times. Good Lord. And I just couldn't figure it out. And this actually, we can expand on that, is I knew how to pedal. It was the balance, right?
Yeah,
And in our
absolutely.
life, that's what it is, right? Sometimes we are pulled in so many different directions. We become unbalanced, imbalanced.
Mhm.
And one thing that I want to share this year is I made it a point to take a step away. Either it's a
Mm,
road trip, either it's a vacation somewhere else. I know that you and I were talking where it's
yeah.
just, I need a break from everything, not from showering, of course,
Yes.
but just a break from everything. And then I figure it out. Hey, this is kind of fun. I was discovering things that I didn't realize that I enjoyed. So when you're dealing with your clients and you're helping them build their confidence and how you're breaking the misconceptions.
Mm.
When you work with them, do you find out that they find confidence in things that maybe before they started working with you, they had no idea that they enjoyed?
One of the things that I see with a lot of individuals is that there are two camps. There's the camp that this is what my life should look like, and this is the life I'm living. And for many individuals, we should ourselves and we say, I should be doing this. I should have that success, or I should get the new promotion, or I should be a better parent. I should be a better business owner. And every time we're living in the should and we're not living in the now, we're robbing ourselves of the gifts that we have every day. And for many of my clients, yes, there is a place where they want to be. They want to be maybe more successful entrepreneurs. They want to be speakers. They want to launch a podcast. So many different things out there, right? But what I remind them is that the skills and the gifts that they have today that they're taking for granted are the gifts that are going to help them propel to the next level, and that they really have to celebrate what they have now in order to get to the next level. Because that sometimes is something that we forget about. And for many individuals, we think we don't measure up. We think we need to be somebody else. But when we're trying to achieve the thing that somebody else has, we're also trying to be that person. And we're never going to hit that mark. We're never going to hit it, because we are us. I'm Julie. If, for instance, if I'm trying to be the Mel Robbins, I'm never going to be a Mel Robbins. I'm going to be Julie. So how I show up in the world, I may have some similar beliefs. I may have some aligned perspective and values with Mel, and I love her. But every time that I think I'm going to be a Mel Robbins, I'm going to suffer, and I'm not going to move further in my path. I'm not going to achieve the things that I want. So as soon as we become more aware, hey, let me see what Julie can do. What are the gifts that Julie has? And begin to expand and build on those gifts and celebrate those and grow in those gifts, then I can get to where I want to be and make the impact that I want.
How difficult is it for people in general to distinguish between who they can be and not comparing themselves to others?
I think that it depends on the level of support that you have and the level of awareness. We hear awareness all the time. We hear, oh, we have to be aware, but there is a level of us that doesn't want to be aware. There's a level also that it's saying, hey, this is the pinnacle. This is what we should reach for. But we never realize that what got somebody there may not be what gets us there, because they're leveraging their gifts. They're leveraging their community. The other thing too that hinders our progress is, who do we surround ourselves with? I think, for many of us, especially in the entrepreneur world, we tell our friends and family, hey, I'm doing this, I'm launching my business, or I'm starting a podcast. And they're going to be like, oh, that's nice. Right. Whereas if I go to a group of podcasters and entrepreneurs and I say, hey, I'm launching a show, this is what I'm doing with my business, they're going to be like, oh my God, that's amazing. That's so great. And guess who's going to give me the support and accountability that is needed, right? Those people that get it. And a lot of times we spend a lot of time with individuals who we love, who they care about us, but may not necessarily have caught the vision of what we want or have done the thing that we want to do. So it's difficult for us to move forward.
That was a difficult journey for myself, because I spoke to someone and they were surprised that I didn't have the support that they feel that I needed from those
Yep.
around me.
Mm.
And one thing I told people is that my dream is not someone else's dream, just like how their
Yeah.
dream is not my dream, meaning that it's their baby, right?
Mm.
I guess the best comparison is, when you have children, you're going to love that child, you're going to appreciate that child, but people in the world are just going to view that child as another human being walking the earth. You're
Right.
just one
Right.
of 7 billion.
Yeah.
So when I discovered that, I had to search for what you said is the right people. And then when I surrounded myself with the right people,
Mhm.
it was like every step someone was cheering me on. Terrain, you got this. You can do this. I'm so proud of you. What's
Mhm.
next? What's your 1-year plan? What's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan?
Yeah.
It was people supporting me in ways that I didn't even think about, right? They said,
Yeah.
hey, have you tried this? Have you tried that?
Mhm.
But one lesson that I learned that was a very hard lesson was that sometimes there's going to be people who are not even going to care to the point where they may even talk down to it. Have you
Yes.
dealt with people that have experienced that as well?
I deal with that a lot. I have a client. We've been working for a while, and she decided to launch her business. She's had this dream. She makes products. They're products that she sells on Etsy and in different places. And by the way, I'm sharing the story because she's given me permission to share the story. But her husband really hated the fact that she had this business. She's like, "Why can't you just get a job?" And she had this incredible hobby, something that she's incredibly talented at and feels passionate about, that she wanted to put out into the world and, hey, maybe make a couple extra $100 here and there. But what she found is that in the process, there's the regular difficulties that we encounter in building a business. Um, but now she also had somebody else telling him, hey, don't do that, go do this, or you need to do this, and you'll never make money doing that. So she had to not only manage her own doubts, she had to manage the judgment and sabotaging words of somebody else who she respected and cares about, right? And then she had to navigate the regular hurdles that comes from being an entrepreneur. So it wasn't until she said, you know what, I'm going to go all in. And the only opinion that's going to matter is the opinion of me. And I'm going to find evidence that people like what I do, that this is something that I can actually create income from. And when she started to create a daily action of noticing and looking at what she's able to gain, right, as opposed to noticing the gap. There's a book by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Harding called The Gap and the Gain. And this is a little bit of what I help a lot of my clients with. If we are looking at all the things that we're gapping, right? Maybe, oh my gosh, you're not making enough money. Who's going to buy this stuff? And we tell ourselves that, but then listening to other people say that, as opposed to, wow, I made a sale today. Oh, someone left me a review and they said that they really love this thing. And wow, people really love me posting a video of how I make it, right? That's the gain. And creating that momentum from that gain is what gets you going, as opposed to staying stuck in that gap. And listen, our spouses, our friends, our parents, they're the people that we desire the most acceptance with, and we value their opinion. And her husband, ultimately, and this is what I said to her, your husband loves you. He's trying to protect you. That's the main reason, but it's really important to live in your own opinions first before you go asking for validation outside of yourself. And that's one of the things that many people forget.
Is that a difficult journey for many people to go through and come out successful on the other end?
Ah, 100%. 100%. I look at even at the flip side of that coin, right? I started my business 3 years ago, and my husband, he's part of the business. He is the person that does the podcast editing and our full right now we have a full podcasting production company. And he's very supportive of everything I do. However, there's a lot of times that as a business owner, I have this vision, I have this plan, and I will say, hey, I'm going to do XYZ for the business. Like, oh, I don't know. And I value his opinion, but I have to remember that what is my vision? What are the things that I want to go forward? And I have a full picture. And for as much as I try to explain it to others, it's not until someone, and even as close as he is being involved in the business, will get that full perspective. So listen to that little voice. Surround yourself with people. And by the way, when my husband will say, oh, that's crazy, don't do that, I'll say, okay, I'll take that into account. But then I'll go back to people who have done what I want to do. And I say, hey, I want to do this, and this is how I want to do it. What do you think? And not to say that somebody else's opinion is more valuable than my husband, but somebody else's experience where he doesn't have that experience. It's more valuable. Now, if I'm trying to build a rocket ship, if I'm trying to test materials in aerospace, I'm going to go to my husband because that's what he does in his real world, right? Because I have no idea about that. So again, the experience of somebody who has done it as opposed to the opinion to someone who loves you and is trying to protect you and may not know how to do what you're trying to do. It's something that you have to weigh in, and it's different for everybody.
So I guess sometimes the first step is to understand the type of support that you're getting and realizing that the person may love you, it just may not be their cup of tea. Or sometimes they may not even know the type of support that you want,
Yeah.
right? Because I know for me, what I wanted ultimately from the people around me is just I just wanted them to wish me the best. They didn't have to follow, they didn't have to watch,
Mhm.
didn't have to do anything. As long as they were appreciative of the journey, I think that
Yeah.
was sufficient for me. Julie, what are some of the ways that maybe we can identify in our journey that's going to make us happy that we want to share with those other people who we love so much?
This is an excellent question. With things that we can share with the people that we love so much, let's celebrate wins and celebrate and say, "Hey, this is a big win for me," right? I know that it may not seem like it, but I would love for you to celebrate this with me. I think that if we start to really ask for what we want, right? Hey, I know you don't get it, but I would love if you share what I'm doing with somebody else because maybe somebody else who needs what I have will leverage it. I think that's one of the first steps. The other thing that we're not very good at is holding space for others and asking others to hold space. And holding space, if you've never heard this term, this is something that the first time I heard, I'm like, what the heck is that? What do you mean hold space? I don't get it. Um, and then the more that I started to kind of like delve into this concept, I'm like, oh, okay. So for instance, if my husband's I'll give you a prime example. My husband came to me and he said, I am going to build a new computer because we do a lot of video editing and podcast editing. He's like, I need something that processes faster. Now, I don't know anything about building a computer. And the computer he currently has is a computer that he built himself. And he calls it the beast because it's got like a lot of capabilities. I just know that when he built that computer, there were a lot of computer parts in my living room. And it was like kind of like the takeover. So when he told me about this computer for what he wants to do, for what he's going to do for the business, for what he's going to do for what he's able to do, I all I saw is like, we already have a computer that works. It's going to be a mess that you're going to build this new thing. It's going to be an investment of money. So I'm looking at it. So I realized that rather than poo-pooing what he was doing, I needed to hold space for him. And I said, you know what? Do you think that that's the best thing? That's what you need? He's like, yes. I said, well, great. I support you 100%. And then I closed my mouth and I just gave him the space to do what he needs to do, what he feels is best. And whether the outcome, because we haven't had an outcome, right? We don't have a new computer, whether the outcome is good or bad, then holding space will be just being supportive and allowing that person to do what they need to do. And for many of us, we think that we need to say, "Oh, I told you so," or "Oh, I'm sorry, it didn't go bad. I knew it wouldn't go that well, right?" But just hold space. You don't have to say the same thing. I see a lot of times that we go through grief, and when people lose an important person in their life, we immediately want to fix it. We immediately want to say the right words. And sometimes we don't think we have the right words. So therefore, we don't even address it with the person. And we kind of like don't talk about it and sort of taboo, where that person is not looking for the right words. That person is just looking for you to Be next to them and say, hey, if you ever need to talk, I'm here. I know you're hurting today. I know this is hard. That's holding space for somebody. That's just being there, letting them know that you see them.
I think sometimes with the grief process is we fall to our default, right? I'm
Hmm.
here for you.
Yeah.
It's going to work out, but we don't actually, sometimes they come across as hollow words because there isn't
Yeah.
the passion, the energy behind it. And, or better yet, as you put, to hold space for that person. Um, because as I look around me, where I am in Toronto, Canada, and I see a lot of people suffering, and I see a lot of people who
Mm,
can use a conversation like you described,
yeah.
because many times there's people who they're suffering, they know they have to get through it,
Yeah.
but they just
Absolutely.
want someone there to say, Julie, you will get through it because I'm going to
Yes.
help you get through it together. Is that the type of conversation that is missing?
I think so. And I think that for many people, um, we're always looking to have the perfect words. And we got to remember that perfect words is not a reality. We have to have genuine and authentic words. And the authenticity and the genuine feeling and support for someone is always going to be better than having the perfect words. And by the way, let's get those feelings translated into action as well. You see someone struggling, then what is their need? Is it the mom that maybe is working two jobs and maybe needs a babysitter? Or maybe the entrepreneur that, is just busy running their business and has kids and has a job as well. Maybe you come over and you say, hey, how about I help you with a little bit of housework, right? That just putting action is also very important. And, we question, well, how much money can I donate? How much time do I have? Sometimes it has nothing to do with the money or the time. Maybe sometimes it has to be with you just saying, I'm here for you. Let me know what you need. What can I do?
The words will get us to the door, then the actions will get us through the door, right? Like, what do I need?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
That's totally how it works.
I wonder if sometimes what is the difficulty of people doing that? Because some of the feedback that I get is that they don't want to feel like they're doing too much. So they
Mm,
rather feel like they're doing not enough. Is that a
right.
battle that you see eternally with some people as well?
I see that a lot. And I think that it also depends on the circumstances, but ultimately, the one thing that I would say is always be open to the idea that there is something that maybe, and by the way, if you notice that you didn't do it enough or you didn't know what to do, ask the right question for yourself, like how can I, not I can't do that, or asking the right question is the one thing that definitely gets you to reevaluate what is the best next thing. And next best thing is really important for us to figure out. We don't have to be big. We can just make a little incremental change in how we did it before. And that's going to help us move forward.
What's some advice that you would want to share with people who are struggling a little bit, understanding what they're going through? Because one, they don't have the confidence, they may not have the resources. And like so many of us, until we actually look into it, we don't even understand truly what we
Mm.
want. How would you guide them?
This is such a good question because being able to get out of the messy middle, out of the struggle, is something that we're always looking at. Oh, when I get to that point, when things are not hard, and we start to again focus on what's in the future. Um, when we are in the messy middle, when we're in the middle of a struggle, I want to give you the analogy of quicksand, right? If you're in quicksand and you're starting to struggle to get out, the faster you're going to sink. So it's very important, right? To still yourself. It's very important to notice what's going on. um, struggles, when we're struggling, it's very easy to lose confidence. It's very easy to say, I'm not good enough. But when we're struggling, it's really a practice of us becoming better and gaining confidence for the future. But we have to notice, like, hey, I'm really struggling. I'll give you an example. When I launched my business in the very beginning, I was a successful business. I worked for a corporation. I was very successful in business, running a business, growing a business, building multi-million-dollar enterprises. Super good at what I did. If there's such a word, I don't even know why I use that, but yeah. Then all of a sudden I launched my business and I was very purposeful and I was excited and I knew that I was going to be good. And of course I knew it. I know how to run a business and how to build a business, how to start one, all that. I was not very successful. And as months started to go by and my savings started to dwindle, I started to question my ability. And I was really in that messy middle. And I was like, oh my God, let me struggle. And I'm like, let me go do this. Let me go do that. And what I needed to really notice is like, okay, what am I working on? What is not working? And really noticing where I was and really not noticing where I wanted to be, not struggling to, do the hustle, but really like, okay, I'm here. My business, this is what I want to do with my business. This is what I'm doing. This is where I am now. This is where I want to be. And then just saying, like, what lessons am I in right now? In what are the things that I'm doing really well? What are the things that maybe I need to change as opposed to trying to crawl my way out of it? And when I noticed and when I decided, like, okay, if I need a client, I need to talk to people that it could be my potential clients, right? So then I started to kind of do that as opposed to really spreading all my efforts everywhere and thinking that something was going to stick. I needed to be intentional. I needed to be deliberate. I needed to be here. And as I started to practice being deliberate, as I started to practice being intentional, then I'm like, oh, that was very good. Let me try again. And that's how I started to build my confidence in the different areas. And I started to grow my business. And then all of a sudden, things started to turn around.
And as you started building your confidence, did the way that you're building your confidence evolve into something else?
Sure. I think that, we grow to a level of confidence, a level of success, and a level of growth. But here's what I'm going to warn you, and really warn all of your listeners. New levels, new devils. So there's always going to be a level of something you don't know. It's like, think of the game. I'm not a gamer, but think of gaming, right? Every time you figure out the game, or you figure out, the level of the game, and oh, I'm going to jump on here and use my sword there, and I'm going to use my flying power there, whatever it is, game, right? I'm not very good at this example, but you get it, right? When I get my battery life and get my packs and then graduate to the next level, I'm not going to be very good at it. And that's okay. You keep playing the game and then you learn where the traps are, where the enemy shows up, where the power packs are, where the extra lives are. And then you keep going at that. But know that just because you get confident in one level doesn't mean that you're going to be confident at the new level. Be okay with, losing. Be okay with, I want to say I don't know if I can say this word. Be okay with sucking, honestly, and being terrible at it. That's part of the process. And that's what we avoid a lot because we make it mean that we're not good enough. We make it mean that we don't belong. We make it mean that we're not going to be accepted. Whereas if we change the meaning of failing at something to, wow, I'm practicing, right? You're going to practice again and again and again until you get better.
As we close, Julie, what final words do you want to share with my audience in regards to growing their confidence and feeling better about themselves?
First of all, I want to thank you for having me. I'm so happy and thrilled that you asked me to come back. It's so fun to talk to you again. For your audience, I want you to think about the vision that you want to accomplish, the things that you want to have. And yes, if you're starting in point A and you're going to point Z, there's a lot of different steps, but never focus on how long the process is. Focus on what your next best step is and celebrate those wins, because change happens when we are trying to create new habits. Change doesn't happen because we repeat the thing X times. It doesn't happen because we're motivated. It doesn't happen because we have, all the money in the world and all the support in the world. Change happens because we feel good about what we've been able to do. And then your brain says, oh, let's do it again because I like that feeling good. And that's what happens. And that's really how behavior change happens, how we continue to grow in our skills, how we start to reach some of our goals, and how we eventually, the goals that we reach, create the vision and make that vision for our lives a reality.